Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So this is going to be another prison related video. I have also got videos on my active fentanyl addiction and sort of going through that at the moment, and also I will be filming me actually withdrawing off of fentanyl, that whole process, so please subscribe if that's something that would interest you. As you can tell, I also have prison related content. I have hundreds and hundreds of videos that I want to film, that I want to talk about, things that I want to raise awareness of. So again, please subscribe if that's something that interests you. This video in particular is going to be about the time that I was threatened and the absolute lack of support that I received from the prison system, and in actual fact they put me in immediate danger where I genuinely could have lost my life. It was that serious and no one really cared. I mean, why are we not surprised? Strangely enough though, it was the only time that I was threatened, the only time that I was scared in that prison. And I was in a prison which is a category B prison surrounded by 700 murderers. So I think that's pretty good going considering the situation that I was in, but still it could have been completely avoided. So as I mentioned previously, I worked in the healthcare department, and one of my jobs was to go onto the wings, go onto each wing and open the boxes, which were the app boxes we called them, and they were what the prisoners had requested an appointment, whether it be doctor, dentist, nurse, psychiatrist, physio, whatever it might be. They would request the appointment, state a little bit of the issue that they had, put it in this box, we'd go and collect them and then book their appointments for them. Stupidly, these boxes were low down, so you had to bend down, you had to turn your back on the whole wing. So it was in a really awkward position. Every wing I always thought, well, why is this in this position? And you're kind of putting yourself in a vulnerable position. As I said previously, I always got on pretty well with the prisoners, so it was never really an issue for me, but it could have been. And you don't want to be actively putting yourself in danger. So that was just one of the many things that just did not make sense when I was there. So anyway, as I say, one of my jobs was to go around and collect these appointment slips. So I went onto this wing. Now, bit of a side note about this prisoner. He was an incredibly impulsive prisoner. He was somebody who was in there for murdering his partner, the mother of his children. He was a fairly young bloke. He was about in his 30s, but he behaved like a teenager. I don't know his kind of whole backstory, but it seemed to me like he'd maybe been in young offenders institutes or kind of been in trouble quite a lot, and therefore had become a little bit kind of institutionalized, and that's maybe why he behaved younger than he was, but he did behave like a teenager, and he would throw his toys out the pram when he didn't get his own way. The problem was, throwing his toys out his pram at that age wasn't just a case of having an argument, it was really, really serious stuff. So to give you guys an example, I just kind of want to paint a picture of the kind of prisoner that I was dealing with. As I mentioned previously, and as many of you are probably aware, drugs are absolutely rife in prisons. You've probably got easier access to drugs in the prison than you have out here. They are everywhere. So they do random drug tests, especially if people are on very strong medication. This guy was on medication for his ADHD, which is an amphetamine, so it's a really, really serious drug. So we have to do drug tests to ensure that he isn't taking something illegally that may have a bad interaction, because should we know that he's taken something illegally, we can then try and work out a way of stopping so that he can continue with his medication that he needs. If he chooses not to stop, then we would stop his medication, because we can't knowingly still prescribe that. So that was the situation with him. He was a known drug addict. He'd been using drugs for a very, very long time. He'd done a drug test and they'd found that he had heroin in his system. So a letter was written to him to say, this is kind of your one chance. We're going to do another drug test. But if you are found to have heroin in your system again, or any other drug, your medication, your amphetamine for your ADHD will stop, because we are putting you at risk prescribing this to you knowing that you are choosing to take other substances. So he knew about this. He came in kicking and screaming and shouting about it, but we said, you know the situation, you know what the rules are, so you can kick off as much as you like, but this is the situation. He then had another drug test and again had substances in his system. So we sent a letter to say, your amphetamines are going to stop now. You've been given your chance, these are the rules, this is just how it is. We offer them a review further down the line should they choose to stop taking whatever substance they want, and they would have a drug test. They may then be able to get back on the medication that they were on previously, but there's no guarantee, but these are just the rules. We can't knowingly prescribe a medication to somebody when it could kill them. We would not be doing our job properly if that was the case. So anyway, this letter, I actually delivered this letter to his door. By the time I had literally walked across the end of the wing and down the stairs, we had a code red. For those of you who don't know, a code red is an emergency call across the radio. It means a lot of blood, basically, red for blood. So there was a code red call to his cell. This man had slit his own throat. Honestly, it was, I didn't actually go, but from what I heard, nurses that had worked in the industry for 20 plus years said they'd never seen so much blood. Some of them work in A&E and they still had never seen so much blood. They said it was absolutely floor to ceiling everywhere. So it was obviously a really serious situation. We got him the help that he needed, got him to hospital, got him sorted out, and he was actually okay. This then happened another 3 times in the following months, and this was all because his medication was stopped. And this was him, like I say, throwing his toys out the pram, but to the very highest extreme. And he actually died twice. In those 4 times that he slit his own throat, he actually died twice, and we had to get an air ambulance, and it was a whole ordeal. It was a really serious matter. He did survive. This is the impulsion that we're dealing with, somebody who will literally get a letter, read it. His instant thing is like, slit my own throat. I mean, it's just a crazy way of thinking. And he even said, well, I caught my jugular, I didn't mean to, that wasn't the idea, almost insinuating that it was like a point to be proven. He was then somebody who, again, because we said we would not put him back on his medication, said, I'm going to take a female member of healthcare hostage. He told us all that he was going to do this. Now I'm really tiny, I'm only 5'2", I'm not even 50 kilograms, so I'm really small, and I'm a very easy target for, if you did want to take somebody hostage, I would be an easy target. So that was also in my mind. A few days prior as well, he said he was going to kill a member of healthcare. He did kind of aim that more at the manager, but still, I don't think he would be that picky, to be honest. And he was also found to have carried a weapon on him. Obviously, he carried a blade on him, which he used to harm himself with on a regular basis. But he'd also broken off part of the ironing board, and it was part of the metal bit, and he'd made a weapon out of that. So this is the kind of person that we are dealing with, somebody who's very impulsive, somebody who doesn't think before they act, somebody who's an active drug user, and somebody who's threatened to take a female member of healthcare hostage, and also threatened to kill a member of healthcare, and is also a weapon carrier. So needless to say, he did make me a little bit anxious. He was one person that you just could never predict how he was going to be. You never knew the kind of person that you were getting. Some days he'd be really serious, some days he'd be jokey, some days he'd be just a bit odd. You never really knew who you were getting. So again, it did make me a little bit on edge. So going back to this particular incident, I went onto the wing, I leant down and I opened this box, and as I turned around, he was this close to me, and there's a wall behind me. He did make me a little bit on edge, so I was, my heart was racing, I was getting a little bit nervous. Didn't let that onto him, of course, but that was how I was feeling at the time, and I did feel really on edge. And I said, we'll call him Steve. I said, oh, you're all right, Steve? He said, I'm going to take your keys. And he came right up to me as he said it, and obviously there was nowhere that I could go. And then he kind of went, almost like a bit of a smirk, a bit of a laugh about it. I don't know whether he realised that he'd made me nervous. I tried not to let on, but I stood there and I thought, I don't know what I can do. As I mentioned previously, I should never be on the wing without officers. The problem we have is the officers don't care about that. Again, there were a few officers that were absolutely brilliant and would always help me, would always escort me. They were great, but there were many that weren't, and there were many that didn't care, and they would say, well, we'll watch you out the window or whatever it be, and they would not help me in any way. So that's the reason that I was on my own without another member of staff, but obviously I shouldn't have actually been in that situation in the first place. So that's the first time that the prison system failed to support me. I was in the situation with said prisoner, I was backed against a wall, and I did feel really, really vulnerable. Now, I asked him to take a step back. I tried to be as assertive as I could whilst absolutely shitting myself because I was terrified of him, and he didn't respond to me. He just like moved a little bit closer. He didn't step forward, but he like leaned a little bit closer, almost like he was trying to intimidate me. I think that's what he was trying to do. And then eventually he kind of leaned back a little bit, enough for me to kind of scoot out. And I didn't run, but I moved very, very quickly to the gate, locked the gate, made sure the gate was locked, and I got out. So it wasn't like a huge incident, and had it have been probably any other prisoner, I wouldn't have been anywhere near as concerned. But the fact is, it's this particular prisoner, as I said, incredibly impulsive. The things that he'd done and threatened to do just put me right on edge. Anyway, after this, obviously I was quite shaken. I went straight back to the healthcare department and I spoke to my manager and I told him about what had happened. His response was laugh. He laughed. And he just made nothing about it. And there was another member of staff there who was kind of higher up, not quite as high up as my manager, but higher up than myself. And again, he laughed. The pair of them just found it funny, and they could see that I was quite shaken up and I was quite nervous about the situation, and they just laughed about it. And they were like, well, if you really want to report it, you can. I said, well, yeah, I do want to report it. They called them nickings, and yeah, it's just a case of you reporting something that you don't deem to be right. So obviously I wanted to report this. For a start, it wasn't right that I was made to feel that way. Second of all, I should never have been on my own in the first place. And third of all, I didn't want it happening to somebody else. So I reported this, and the actual duty manager that I spoke to was really, really helpful. He was actually really supportive and just said, I'm sorry you've put in this situation, are you okay? And that made me feel a little bit better. So following on from this, the next day, another manager came in and she was actually really, really nice to me. She said to me, you feeling okay about it? She sat me down and she said, when this happens, this is seen as a threat to escape because he's threatened to take your keys. So he's been added to the E list or the escape list. And that means he is literally, his face is all over the prison so that everybody knows this prisoner made a threat to escape, just so everybody was aware of the situation. He was then also put in luminous yellow and blue clothing, which he had to wear all the time. And again, that is because if he did try and escape, it's reflective and you can see him from a million miles away and you know that he shouldn't be, out. He was also put in the segregation. And obviously a lot of prisoners do not want to be in segregation. So when any prisoner goes into segregation, mental health go and see them, have a little chat with them. And a member of the mental health team did say to him, do you know why you're here? And he said, yeah, because I threatened to take that lady in healthcare's keys. So he knew why he was there. He knew that I was the one that reported him. And obviously the implications of that were, as I've said, he had to wear the clothing, he was in segregation, and also he had a nick-in or a report put in about him. Now, when this happened, I was pretty on edge because I thought, okay, he knows I'm the reason that he's been put in this situation. What if he comes to me? This is a very, very impulsive prisoner, somebody who's taken someone's life, would probably take someone else's life, has tried to take his own life on multiple occasions. What's to say he wouldn't do it to me? I was reassured that he would be in the segregation for a very long time. And I was also told that when he was let back out into general population, I would be informed so I would know where he was and to not go to that wing by myself, basically. So that made me feel a bit reassured, and I thought, okay, well, at least something's been done about it and I'm not just being left in the dark. More for me. I should have known better. That was never going to be the case, was it, in this situation? So I thought that, quite a long time, would maybe be a month, maybe 2 months, this is quite a serious thing that happened. Less than 2 weeks later, he was out of segregation. He was not in his E-list clothing. He was even taken off the E-list. How did I find this out? Not because anybody decided to inform me, not because anybody thought that maybe I should know because maybe there might be a threat to my life. No, this was not the case. The way I found out, I passed him in the corridor on my own, in a corridor where the cameras don't work. I walked past him. And as I looked up, I thought, oh, that's not him. And then I realised, no, that is him. That's him, and he's walking right towards you. A known weapon carrier, a known hostage taker, a murderer, somebody who's threatened healthcare on occasions, somebody who's incredibly impulsive. This guy was walking towards me, and I have never felt fear like it. I was absolutely terrified, and I knew I was stuck because there's a gate this end and there's a gate that end, but there's no chance I'm getting out of there probably before he is, and he can come after me. I'm a very, very small person. He could easily fight me and get that gate open. I was stuck, and I was absolutely panicking so much. I was terrified. Luckily, he must have been in a great mood that day, and all he said is, "Are you right, miss?" And he walked by. And I stood there for a minute and made sure that he'd actually gone. And then I very quickly walked off to the next gate, made sure I'd locked it, and I was out. But for that split second, I was absolutely terrified because I genuinely thought something could happen here. And also, nobody knows because the bloody cameras don't work. So I could literally be killed. I could be killed. He's a known weapon carrier. How do I know he's not got a weapon on me? How do I know he's not going to strangle me? How do I know he's not going to beat the living crap out of me? I don't know these things. This is somebody who's got a bit of a thing in for me because I put him in that situation. I mean, technically he put himself in that situation, but he would view it as she put me in that situation. I'm just so lucky and grateful that it worked out the way it did, but it really could have ended in a much worse way. I genuinely could have lost my life. That is the seriousness of this. And I went back to my manager and I said, why did no one inform me? Why did no one tell me that he was back in general population? Oh, is he? Oh, I didn't realise, to be honest. It's like, we know the situation. This guy's not happy about the situation that, he feels I put him in. And we just happily put me at risk. And that was a real eye-opening moment because it made me think, wow, if they're willing to just put me at risk like that, do I really want to be in this environment surrounded by 700 murderers when I'm not supported by my own team, when I'm not supported by the rest of the staff there? I felt like I was completely standing alone. And that is a really scary situation to be in. And that was one of the reasons which led to me, obviously, in the end, leaving the prison system. I should never have been put in that situation. I should never even have been put in the first situation that I was in, but I certainly should not have been put in that second situation. Not at all. And I think it's absolutely disgusting that I was. The problem is these are not a rare case. Situations like this happen all of the time. All of the time. Without a shadow of a doubt, they probably happen on a daily basis where staff is put at risk and no one cares. Really and truly, I'm surprised there aren't more members of staff that are killed or seriously injured. I really am surprised because people are put at risk all the time, as I say, every single day, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. And that is the problem. So many people, and this comes back to what I was saying. And the fact is, so many people are there for the wrong reason, as I said previously. So many members of staff in the prison systems are there for the wrong reason. And it's proven then all they needed to do was say, oh, by the way, Steve is now out of segregation, he's in general population, just thought I'd let you know he's on this wing. That was all I needed. But they couldn't even be bothered to let me know of that. And they just put me in a situation where, like I say, I could have lost my life, and it was absolutely terrifying. This is just one incident that I have of so many where things went wrong, things shouldn't have happened, the corruption, the people that are there for the wrong reason. There is hundreds of stories that I've got, and I am looking forward to sharing them with you guys and just trying to raise it, like I say, raise a little bit of awareness and just highlight some of these things. You know, the things we see on programs, the things we see in films, they do happen, and so much worse as well. So I am looking forward to sharing some more stories with you very soon. Thank you for watching. Bye.